Hello, hello. You're all welcome to this session. So happy to have you all here. So today we are going to be looking at something beyond Power BI. So we're going to be looking at how or why we need advanced softwares or data analysis. Because what we have practically done so far, Power BI, like the drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop, drag. But this has its own limitations. And one of the limitations is when you want to start to then work with large data sets, or want to build our own pipeline of data analysis cases. I want this to be customized to the organization I'm working with, then becomes a problem. And this is where platform softwares that give us that capacity to develop our own custom codes. Because Power BI has already, kind of given us what they feel we need. But then at times you hit some roadblocks and you feel, oh, no, I think I need something for myself. That is syntax-based platforms come. And these platforms are kind of littered around now because we currently live in the world of data analysis. So Python, Python every time, R every yeah, different kind of software. Even even specialized softwares for maybe some parts of data analysis like machine learning. Yeah, specialized softwares that easily create your own custom made engine for data analysis. So today we're going to just be looking at just why we need these softwares, then how can we download this? There's one other one that I didn't put on my slide, and that's SQL, structured query language. Whilst we are not going to be going in depth into all of this, we just want to let everyone to at least have some inkling into what they do, how they do what they do, and how it is applicable or usable in your own setting. So sit back, relax, and open your PC as we look into all of this. So, like I said, Python, R, SQL, they are beyond Power BI because now you're going to start writing codes. So you're going to start writing syntaxes yourself. You're not going to be dependent on what is there where you just drag and drop. So now it's more of you thinking around, okay, I want to write my thing. It's just like someone has given you a sentence, a command that, okay, whenever you get to a particular place, just say, I am a boy. And that's the code. You will be let in. People will allow you in. That's the code. The person has given you that. But it's different from now you start to think around, okay, what is the code I'm going to use if I want to enter? So unlike someone giving me that code, now I want to build the code that would allow me enter myself. So let me bring it to another setting. It's more of there's another thing around, okay, someone had given you a security protocol to enter your house. So the person made the security protocol and gave it to you. Bam. It's different from, oh, I want to create my own code myself to secure my house. Those are two different things. So the same thing working in different ways. That's just it. So some people might decide that, okay, the limitation of Power BI is okay for me. I don't need to move ahead. I don't need to learn how to write codes or how to code. Power BI is enough for what I do. The person is fine. And some, even Python and R is even the bare minimum for them. Those are, it's also fine for them. So it's dependent on what you think you need, the utility it serves you, or utility they serve you, and the kind of things that you're going to be doing for that. So today is just around learning Python, how to download Python, how to use R, how to use SQL. So Python and R, why they are both, in the data analysis world or in the data world, Python and R are very, very common. They are popular, and many softwares are based on Python. However, there are fundamental differences. Yes, when you want to move away from just data analysis, you now want to start modeling. You want to start, building models to predict, building models to model relationship between variables. You can't use Power BI because Power BI is not inherently, built for those. Power BI is inherently built for descriptives, showing your charts, showing how beautiful things are going. But when you want to start modeling, like real modeling, when you talk about modeling, modeling means you are trying to build relationships between variables. Then you need tools like Python and R. Although softwares like SPSS also offers that. Yes, SPSS, Data, they also offer that. However, Python and R are like advanced part of it. So that's why we're not going back to all those SPSS. So you can easily do whatever it is you want to do. When you want to start thinking around modeling, saying, okay, I want to know the relationship between this variable and this. I want to know how this variable predicts this variable. Oh, I have a bunch of variables and I want to use them to predict if this would happen. So let's assume that I have a bunch of variables, let me say psychological variables. I want to use them to predict if someone is going to commit suicide or not. To be able to model the relationship between all of my psychological variables, maybe the person has been moody, depression status, affective status, stress status, all of those things. I want to measure stress level, I want to measure affection, I want to measure emotions, I want to measure all of these things and use all of these variables to predict if the person would commit suicide or not. Then I can't use Power BI. I have to start thinking around how to use R for such, or Python for such. So when you're talking about analysis, hypothesis testing, regression, modeling, R is best. But when you now want to talk about advanced data analytics, like the way we did extraction, transform, and load, ETL, we call it ETL pipeline. You want to start doing that, Python is best for you. So take it as, okay, when you want to do database management and you want to build the pipeline for data handling, then Python is good. So that's where you learn SQL and you learn Python. But if you want to just, bring your data into a place, analyze your data, modeling approach, just model relationships, then R is best for that. So that's the fundamental difference between R and Python. So if I want to run a machine learning algorithm, I would inherently go to R. If I want to write something that deals with AI and all of those, I will inherently go to, I know, if I want to write a machine learning algorithm, I will inherently go to Python. If I want to run a model, hypothesis, any kind of model, Bayesian, any kind of model, for instance, statistical modeling, any model, I'll go to R because R handles that quite easily. But if I want to start building machine learning algorithm, start to talk about building data pipeline. So data pipeline is just, you have your data sitting somewhere. You want to be able to write something that extracts the data from the repository or from the database, then transforms, clean it, and load them to another platform, maybe your Python environment or even to Power BI. And Python will do that effectively. So those are the fundamental differences between Python and R. But we're now talking about database management. You want to create your own database. What we have been doing so far is we've been taking data, download data, then analyze data. We can also create our own database ourselves. So to create our own database ourselves, that's where SQL comes in. So today is all about just, all of these basics and how to download these platforms. So I'm going to take us through how to download them so that it will be easy for us to do on our own. To be that hard to do on our own, or easily kind of pick the data, pick our laptop, download the software, then install them. So for SQL, we're going to be using PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL. So we're going to be using PostgreSQL. So SQL is the ID. So in this world, we're going to be learning so what we call ID. So ID is the integrated development environment. The ID is like a platform where which you do some things that coding might not be able to work with codes easily. So ID gives you that environment where you can be able to write all your codes. So like traditionally, where you write your code is in machine language or in assembly language. But all of these IDs have helped us to be able to write our code in human language, but they will convert them to machine language for us. And these languages are more technical than some other ones. But all of us so you want to write syntax for database management, you make use of PostgreSQL. There are some other database management tools. There are some other database management other database. But the one that we'll be using for this class is PostgreSQL. So just come to postgresql.org. You can click on download. Click on download, then you're able to download that, then install. So if you click on download, you have these options either to Linux or Mac OS, Windows, BSD, or Solaris. So using Windows, pick Windows. Or in Mac OS, you're using Linux, pick any of the ones, any of the options that is yours. I use Windows, so I click on Windows, then I'll click on download the installer. If I'm using Mac OS, I'll click on Mac OS, then download the installer. That's all. Once I download the installer, then it starts to download. So once I'm done, it downloads something like this. So download something like this, then I download it. I install .exe, just the way I install it. So write it out. The next software that I want to talk about, or the next platform I want to talk about, is R. So to start using R on your laptop, just go to posit.co. On posit.co, you can start looking for. So the ID that runs R is RStudio. just like the way we run SQL on PostgreSQL. Like I said before, PostgreSQL is an IDE where we write structured query language. Structured query. So when we start to talk about each of those software, I'm going to talk about what structured query language is all about, what relational database management system is all about, what database management system is all about. Generally, we have different kind of database. We're going to talk about all of this. So for R, the IDE for R is RStudio, but you have to have R. So you download both R and RStudio. You download both R and RStudio. So it's good that you download both of them. Don't just download one and leave the other. So you download both R and RStudio. So once you download RStudio, you can see when you come to post it, then click on download RStudio. It downloads RStudio for you. However, if you install RStudio, it would ask you to also install R. If you install RStudio, it will ask you to also install R. So just ensure that you install both R and RStudio. So once you install both of them, once you open RStudio, you're able to run. But if you don't download and install both of them, if you install only RStudio, you will not be able to use R because it tells you to go and install R. But if you install only R, you are not going to be able to use the IDE because on the R, so let me open what I mean by R. So this is R. Let me try to open R. Let me come up. Okay, yeah, this is R. So this is R. You can see how boring it looks. Very boring. So it's going to bring up the console. But RStudio will bring something like this that makes your work easier. To bring something like this that makes your work easier. So you can easily, do many things. You can click, you can do many things. But on R, you're able to do all of those. You're able to do all of those. So it's good for you to use R. And when we start to work on each of these packages, like I said, we're going to go in depth into what they are, how they came about, how we're going to be using them. Although this is just going to be overview. In our advanced class, that's where we are going to talk about each of these subsets in depth. So that's how you download R. So you can see RStudio desktop. So you see install RStudio. Remember where we started from? Click on download RStudio. So you click on download and install R. Download RStudio desktop for Windows. Because I'm using Windows. I think that I'm using what's it called? The Mac OS. That's Apple. It's going to tell me to download for Mac OS. So that's how it is. So you are using Windows, you download for Windows, you are using Mac OS, you are using Linux, you download for Linux. So that's about R. Now to use Python. Python is a language and the IDE that runs Python. There are several ones. There's PyCharm. PyCharm is what I use. So this is PyCharm. Let me close this guy. Close this guy. So this is PyCharm. PyCharm is what I use personally. That's what I use. But for you to use advanced PyCharm, you need to have a license. You need to have a license. That's the problem with PyCharm. You need to have a license with PyCharm. That's the issue. You can see that it's already bringing license expired. So although I have a student account that can allow me to use PyCharm for free. So if you have a student email or an organizational email, it's easy for you to use PyCharm, at least for 1 year for free. Yeah, it's easy for you to use PyCharm for 1 year free. So just for you to come to PyCharm, so just type PyCharm. So type PyCharm. So you see download PyCharm, JetBrains. So JetBrains is the name of PyCharm. So you go to download PyCharm. So if you enter into this website, you can easily come to pricing. So if you want to download, just click on download and follow the prompt of downloading the executable file, then you install, just like the way it looks like. Just download and install. However, you will not be able to use it until you register. If you don't register with PyCharm, you won't be able to use it. So it's more of you have to create a profile. You have to create a profile. So when you are done, it will tell you to go and create a profile. So that's why if I want to enter my license here, I click on enter, you can see I did enter. So I have my account here already. So I can manage my account and activate. So it's more of trying to create a profile. So you have to create a profile for you to use PyCharm. For you to use PyCharm, you have to create a profile. So it's dependent on what you want. So if you go to this pricing now, if you go to pricing, you see different kind of, well, okay, I think it said, oh, free forever. Oh, okay, I think this will be the cheapest version. That's the basic version. So they have basic versions and they have the um, advanced versions. So if you want the advanced versions, so you have to pay for that. But for you to use student version, just use in comes to pricing, you see student teachers and community free. So this is subscription. So you can see for students and teachers, it's usually free. For non-academic educators, it's also free. They are students. Sorry for sorry for the break translation.